Let's explore how to solve percent change problems using the formula b plus minus br is equal to f, where b is the initial value, r is the rate of change, and f is the final value. By working through different scenarios, we'll see how to calculate increases, decreases, and find original values before a change occurred. Knowing how to answer questions like these builds a strong foundation for solving problems in many practical situations involving percentages. In the first question we're asked, what is 36 increased by 12.5%? Now before you continue watching, it is advised that you review a video I made previously on percent proportion problems, where we learned that by multiplying the base value with the rate, we find the portion of the base. Notice how this forms the backbone of the formula we're using, where if we're looking to find the final amount after a change has occurred, we take whatever the base is and add or subtract to it the portion of the base, leading us to the final. When we're dealing with an increase situation, we use the plus version of the formula, and when we're dealing with a decrease situation, we use the subtraction version of the formula. You're more than welcome to replace the letters B with an I for initial if that's how you feel comfortable. So again, going back to our question, we're told that 36 increased by 12.5%. The key word here is increased, so we'll be using the plus version of the formula. Furthermore, 12.5% is our rate. We need to change this percentage into a non-percentage by dividing it by 100%, and if you do that, you end up with 0.125. Therefore, this will be our value for R. The 36 represents the base value or the initial amount. In problems like these, the base and the percent change are usually connected in this statement. Notice how the question has given us two pieces of information. As long as you have two pieces of information, you can solve for the third unknown variable. In our case, that's the letter F, or the final. So let's go ahead and substitute those values into the formula written here. Again, our base value is 36, and it is being increased by 12.5%. So I'll replace this B with 36 as well, and that R with 0.125. And by calculating the left side of this equation, we'll find the final amount. Let's use our calculator. 36 plus 36 times 0.125 outputs to 40.5. Therefore, if you increase 36 by 12.5%, you end up with 40.5. That question was straightforward since we were given B and R. Now take a look at how things differ with different information. This time we're told 21 is what number decreased by 68%. The key word here is decreased, so we'll be using the subtraction version of the formula. Let me go ahead and write that down. B take away BR is equal to F. It is clear that 68% will represent your rate, so we'll change that into a decimal as 0.68, and that's your R value. Now if you reread the question as what number decreased by 68% is 21, it becomes clear that 21 is the final amount. And this what number happens to be the base amount. Because remember, the base and the percent change are usually connected in the statement. So we're looking for a base amount that when decreased by 68% becomes 21. Let's go ahead and substitute those values. We have B that's unknown. We have our rate, which is 0.68, and our final happens to be 21. At this point, we have to apply a bit of algebra to isolate for B. Notice that B is common in both of these terms, so we'll factor out a B. And this leads us to 1 take away 0.68 is equal to 21. The technique I just used here is called common factoring. Then we subtract 0.68 from 1, and that amounts to 0.32 times B is equal to 21. Finally, to isolate for B, all we have to do is divide both sides by 0.32. And so if we do that, let's use our calculator. 21 divided by 0.32 gives us an output of 65.625. 65.625. So if you start with 65.625 and decrease it by 68%, it will become 21. Let's try another example. This time question 3. 4.75 is 3 increased by what percent? So the key word here is increased, and that means we'll be using the plus version of the formula. B plus BR is equal to F. And the question is clear. It's asking what percent. So they're actually looking for the value of R, which then gets multiplied by 100% once it's found. But between 4.75 and 3, which one is B and which one is F? Just like in our previous video, the base and the rate are always connected when you read these questions. So this 3 must be the base, and this must be our final. And so if we substitute these values, we end up with 3 plus 3 times R is equal to 4.75. And this time we have to solve for R. Again, using a bit of algebra, we'll move that term to the other side. In other words, subtract both sides by 3. And we end up with 3R on the left side. Subtracting the terms on the right, we get 1.75, and 3R still remains on the left side. If we divide both sides by 3, we end up with R is equal to 1.75 divided by 3. Apply this into our calculator. We end up with that number, but don't forget to multiply it by 100%. So let me make a note of that you do want to multiply this by 100% or a factor of 100. And if you do, your calculator will output 58.3 repeating. So you can write this as a decimal number to 2 decimal places, like this, or using your calculator, if you click SD, you end up with 175 over 3%, which is also allowed but uncommon. Most common is to write it as a mixed fraction, and that's 58 1/3%. So any one of these three is acceptable, depending on the requirements of the question. For the next 3 examples, starting with question 4, I want you to pause this video and distinguish what it is each question is looking for and how to set up the equation. We're asked, what is 105 decreased by 2 over 5%? That is your base value, and that is your rate. More specifically, 2 over 5 is 0.4%, but when converted into a decimal is 0.004. In this example, you would be solving for F. Placing those values into the equation, we use B take away BR is equal to F because of it being decreased. And it will look like this. 105 take away 105 multiplied by 0.004 is equal to your value of F. If you compute the left side, you end up with your answer. For question number 5, 120 is what number increased by 133 1/3%. The what number they are seeking is your base value. That would be your rate, and that would be your final. Because this is a mixed fraction, it does take a little bit of work to change it into a non-percentage rate. If you do it correctly, your rate should be 4 over 3, and you want to keep it in exact form like that. And plugging this into our formula, we have B plus B times 4 over 3 is equal to 120. You would factor out a B from both of these terms, leaving you with 1 plus 4 over 3. You would combine what's in the parentheses, and it would amount to 7 over 3 times B. And finally, dividing both sides by 7 over 3 would give us our value of B. For the last example, 16 is 24 decreased by what percentage? I hope you discovered that this value is your base, that is your final, and you have to use the subtraction version of the formula. So we have 24 take away 24. The fact that we're looking for a rate means that R will be left unknown to us. Bringing that term over and subtracting what's on the right side would give you -8 and -24R on the left side. And finally, dividing both sides by -24, then multiplying the output by 100% would give you the rate. You should end up with a positive value. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comment section below. Talk to you all later.